April is Autism Awareness Month. Many children, especially boys, are diagnosed with autism every day. Statistics show that 1 in 54 boys are diagnosed with the disorder. Today, you will meet a mother whose son was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder at the age of 3, and another mother whose son is 21, entering a new chapter in his life as an autistic adult. Stay with us today as we help spread the awareness of autism. Thank you everyone for joining us today. April is Autism Awareness Month, and today we will be meeting families who are raising autistic children and adults. For my one guest today, she is on a journey to find answers and a cure for autism, as most parents are. But for now, this mother has performed numerous techniques to help her 6-year-old son cope with the pervasive developmental disorder. Later on, you will meet a mom whose 21-year-old son is starting a new chapter in his life as an autistic adult. But first, let's start with you, Laura. Please welcome Laura LaGrady to the show, everyone.
Hi.
Nice to see you, ladies. Thank you for being here today for April and it's Autism Awareness Month. And I feel that we really do have to promote awareness for autism because so many children are diagnosed with it. Laura, your son, who's now 6, was diagnosed when he was just 3 years old.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I knew from 8 months old that there was something wrong with him, and doctors kind of just shoved me off a lot. They said he looked at me, he had eye contact, he was fine, but by 13 months I had him evaluated and he was at a 9-month-old level. Even his teachers who came to the house for early intervention did not see it. I had him evaluated at 2.5, nothing came up, but by 6 months later the PDD came up. So it's like a mother's gut.
Right.
You know that there's something just not right.
What signs were you noticing that you immediately knew something was wrong when he was that young?
I have an older son, so there was no interest in him at all. He didn't look for his brother. He didn't try to play with his brother. He wasn't mimicking me. Clap hands, hands up. How big are you? And he was a good baby, quiet, but there was just little things that I just thought were a little odd. Because
and little things that he wasn't doing that like another baby would do, or your other son would do in this case.
Yes, and people just thought I was constantly, comparing him to my oldest. Your oldest was more advanced, and I said, no, there's something wrong. And then you try to listen to the doctors, and the doctor was wrong.
Yeah.
And told me that they would laugh at me if I had him evaluated. And I came back and said, nope, he's at a 9-month-old level, and he's 13 months old.
Wow.
In some levels, in some areas, he was in the 6-month level.
And your friends and family thought that you were just being hard on him as opposed to your other son, but it's like you said, you knew there was something different about him. Did you suspect that it was a form of autism?
I did. I just had a gut that it was, and I always tell people always come to me now, knowing that all the stuff I've gone through with Connor, and they'll say, this is going on. I just say, you have to trust your gut. If you feel there's something wrong, then you call. The worst that they can do is just say, nothing's, you're fine, you don't need anything right now.
How many doctors did you see before you actually got the diagnosis?
I didn't see, a psychologist evaluated him and diagnosed him. My pediatrician, I left, they told me that he was fine, and I went to a neurologist, and it was the neurologist who said, so I'd say 2 or 3 before I found the neurologist who said to me, you need to get him looked at. They thought it was just a fine motor problem. And it took 2 evaluations for the autism to appear. By 3, the guidelines change. So by 2.5, he wasn't really reaching certain things because he wasn't as severe. But by 3, it showed up as a PDD. But I just call it autism. It's on the spectrum. People don't know what that is, so it's a form of autism.
It is, and there are several types, and I think it is very great for parents like yourself even who's never, I mean, do you have any relatives or siblings that have autism as well?
I don't have any siblings, but I do have relatives. We have family in both sides.
So do you think it's more of like a hereditary type thing, or it's just something that happens? Because it's such a gray area.
I do believe that there's some genetic factor, but I am a believer that it is autoimmune. I do feel it's our environment. The more cases, I think it's the toxic environment we're putting our children into that's probably causing the genes to do something more and more and more. But I it's hard for me to answer that. I think it's both.
Yeah.
I
and
do.
Did you notice signs when he was very young, as a baby, right off the bat, that something was different about him?
I'd say by 8 months old.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't, I knew it, I knew, you know, the developmental milestones they need to go through, and not looking for his brother, laughing at him, he wasn't clapping his hands if I asked him, he wasn't mimicking me at all.
Right.
He was good, he wasn't screaming, or he slept really, and also I thought it was odd that he was so mellow. He was very, very mellow.
Yeah.
Or my other, you know, I wanted to be crying, wanted to get up, he didn't want to sleep, and Connor was very just, you know, opposite to some stories that you do hear, but I just thought there was something not right.
Right. Do you find it more difficult to raise a child with autism as opposed to your other son?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
In what ways?
It's challenging just because you're constantly going through, I call it the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
You have the progressions, then you have a big regression. You can never kind of get them, their system up in one level all at the same time. If something progresses, speech, something else falls. So
it's a constant roller coaster. There's ups and downs, ups and downs.
He's a good boy. He's a good child. He's well behaved. That manner, I could have it a lot worse. But the constant daily challenge of, is he going to be okay today? Is he going to be off today? Is he going to speak to me? Is he going to, you know, it's a challenge where the other two, you know, you don't have those challenges with.
And when he was finally diagnosed with the disorder at age 3, I mean, were there programs or even medications that the neurologist has suggested to you?
No medications. I diet him. I immediately just started doing my own research and came upon a great book, read it, and just started my own mother's little journey.
Yeah. What are a few of those things that you've been doing? Because they've actually been helping him, from what you said.
I have him gluten, casein, and soy-free. And within 3 days of stopping those foods, the teacher looked at me and said, "What did you do?" He was aware of what was going on around him. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why I really went that way is because before he was diagnosed and he wasn't speaking, I had him allergy tested, and he has every allergy under the sun, environmental, food, everything.
Wow.
And when I took the foods out of his diet, 2 weeks later he spoke. So when he was diagnosed and I did all this reading, I went, oh, remember that. And I really just started pulling those foods from his diet. I take him to a lot of specific doctors who deal with autism, and I don't medicate, I do a lot of supplements. And I also take him for acupuncture and to a chiropractor.
Did he have trouble communicating with you when it was time?
Yes, he
in
wasn't
what ways
speaking. He would just grunt at me, and because he was so mild-mannered, I knew he was either hungry, he was tired, or he wanted a drink. I just a mother, you know, and it was very hard. He didn't point at things. He just would walk over to something, or he would just whine. And then I pulled the food from him, and he just started to speak 2 weeks later.
Wow.
It wasn't. And it came slow.
Yeah.
But
and it's not a cure. I mean, it's just ways that, you know, you've found a way to cope with it and help ease it, sort of ease the struggles.
I'm still on my journey. I don't stop. I feel that there's more in him to come out. So taking him to a new doctor now, and I just feel like I feel that they can. I have met children who have recovered, but I truly believe that Connor is always going to need something to help him, whether it's a supplement or some certain therapy to help him continue his journey and grow.
Right. And now that he still is very young. I met him before the show, actually. He's a sweetheart. Yeah. At 6 years old, being in kindergarten, I mean, does he have trouble with the curriculum in kindergarten?
No.
And how does teachers treat him?
He does. He's very smart. He fully is reading on level.
Wow. And he loves to read, from what you say.
He loves to read. He'll pick up any book. He'll read it. He's trying to sound out words. He knows math. He knows numbers. Wow. He does not have any trouble with the curriculum at all. His weaknesses are social, and not that he'll run away from a child. He just has trouble making those connections. He needs a lot of help with that. So that is actually his only main issue that he has.
And that is one of the common symptoms with autism. It is a social interaction.
People will look at him and go, "I don't understand."
Yeah.
He doesn't look like, and I can't stand that because I don't know what something's supposed to look like, but he doesn't look autistic. And I said, well, if you put him in a room with children his age, you will then see it, because he's not doing the typical things that a 6-year-old would do.
Right.
Play skills also. He doesn't really care for pretend play. He'd rather, play a video game. things that don't require something to come back, that he can go into his own little world. So I have to make sure I monitor that.
Right. And you are also very active in the community as well. You know other people, you mentioned before the show, that have a child with autism.
Many, because where he went for the school, he did go to a program for 3 years. And I met plenty of mothers, and we still keep in touch, and we do our weekly meet.
Wow. What do you discuss in your meetings, if you don't mind my asking?
We discuss everything, but all of us have a child, not necessarily with one of them doesn't have a child with autism, but just with special needs, and all the, we cry to each other. It's just something they know.
So it's more of a support group.
We do. We know. We laugh, and we'll laugh, but they're the only other mothers that actually get it. They get what you're going through. They get the struggle. They get your ups and they get your downs, and they're just. I'll never forget them. They're with me, and even though our kids aren't in the same school anymore, we still continue to meet every week.
And that's great, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this show, is just to promote the awareness and to help people out there that do have an autistic child, that maybe it's an infant, and like you, they see something that should be different about them, and this kind of gives them some answers and a path to go down. So actually, I'm going to move on to you now, Joan, just for a little bit. You actually have a son that's turning 21 years old now.
Correct.
Who's autistic as well, but he has a different form of an autism. He has ASD, which is an autism spectrum disorder.
Right. He's at the Asperger's level. Asperger's syndrome. It is, first of all, I applaud your exuberance. I can totally relate. My journey is a little bit different, but as you were speaking, I'm flashing back 20 years ago. It is different. He was an atypical child, though. However, he actually said his first word at 8 months.
Wow.
So the speech was not the difficulty with him, and he was my first child, so I did not have a yardstick, as you did. So for me, he was very, actually, I called him brilliant, because he caught on so quickly. At the age of 3, he memorized per word Clements Moore, The Night Before Christmas.
Wow.
So, he had that kind of skill. However, things started to really fall apart, although I did see some things, when he was a baby. But things really started falling apart more for him when he started getting into preschool, into social aspects, and playing with other children, and being able to transition from one program to another. It was very, very difficult for him if he didn't want to or didn't understand why. So that when a lot of things started red flagging for me. I went to doctors about it. I did have to go through several doctors until I found a speech pathologist and a behaviorist who was working in early intervention education that I had sought out. And she suggested that I would have him tested for autism. I went to Children's Hospital. We were living in California at the time. And at that point, he was diagnosed with high-functioning autism because she said you would get far more better benefits and services, because Asperger's at that time, this is 20 years ago, wasn't really accepted as far as giving services for school. So later on, he was diagnosed actually fully with Asperger's. But it's been a trial and error every day. I tried a lot of those, which is wonderful, the casein diets, and when he was younger, it was wonderful because I saw a big difference. However, as he got older and more social demands came into view, like parties, like school treats and things, I started blending him more because I started feeling like it was more important for him to be social. That was just my choice. And now it started being my journey to really seeing how he could blend more, how he can fit in more to the functional world, because there's lots of hurdles that he has to get over.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this is your first child that has autism. Were you
Correct.
familiar with autism at all prior to that?
No, nothing.
Wow, so you were thrown in
However,
right into it.
As a mother, though, there were things that I recognize. I'm an animal lover, so I had these 2 huge dogs, and as my child was walking around with his, what do you call those things, walkers, he never recognized the dogs. You know, the dogs would be walking by, almost hitting him in the face with the tails, and he'd be just la la la, you know, in his own world. And I'm like, wow. And other times I'd go into the room and I'd say, Alex, what's going on? And it was, I even thought for a little bit that he might have a hearing problem. This is when he was very, very small, because he did not react right away. It was, again, he was in his own little world until I engaged him in something, and then, you know, you kind of forget about that. But, you know, your instinct as a mother sort of tweaks your ears, and then, but I really started seeing when he was playing with children more and more. And so that really alerted me that I needed to find out something.
And his form of autism is different than what Laura's son Connor has.
Yes, it is.
Does he have any, or did he have like repetitive movements? Because I know with the ASD sometimes there's repetitive movements, things like that. I did a little bit of research on it because even for me it's a very gray area.
Yes, he did when he was younger. Matter of fact, he had a lot of sensory problems. So he used to rock to get himself to self-regulate. And with that, I took him to chiropractors and also occupational therapist. He slept with a weighted quilt for a long time. When he came home very, very jittery, sometimes I'd have to put him under the couch cushions and sit on the couch to self-regulate his nerves to get back. He's regulated himself oh gosh, he's come such a long way. But still now he can speak of it and say, I'm out of myself, and so he does.
So he sees a change in himself as well now, being 21 years old.
Oh yes, it's been a long journey, but this has been very, very slow process throughout the years. And using the words is very important for a child that is that intelligent. You need to use the words. You know, your sensory system is out of whack. It's off. You need to have deep pressure, you need to do this, and so he starts recognizing that this is part of who he is. So, and that's been my journey a great deal. Just keep on. I'm at another section in my life with him to get adult services, which I'm working on now, and he's part-time in college. His dream is to become a marine biologist, so he's taking very slowly because he gets overwhelmed. He also has anxiety disorder, so it's a trial and error, but he's doing it. He's gotten through his first year.
Well,
so,
good for him.
you know.
And good for both of you to, you know, I mean, I'm sure this is very stressful as a mom to not only see this, but have to live through it and you know, what's going to help them, what's going to get them through this, you know, so I'm sure this is what is the stress level like being a parent with a child with autism?
I'd say I really have to be honest. I'd say about a 7 daily, you know, because also as they get older, right now at Connor's age, if you don't mind, I can understand the stressors that you're at. At this point, they're still a little blendable with the other children on a playground or whatever. When they get older, and that's not minimizing any of what you're going through, because I was there, but as they get older, their quirkiness and their stands out a bit more, and the society is a little less forgiving to an older person, and that is a worry to me.
Yeah.
So.
Did either of you have trouble with both of your children being judged because of their, you know, how did the other students feel, like, for instance?
How do you,
well,
how is it at this point?
He's in a classroom, in a small classroom right now, but he is mainstreamed into a regular kindergarten classroom. I don't, hasn't verbalized to me that there's been a problem. I don't shelter my son though, so I take him everywhere we go. Generally, no, everybody's pretty good. I mean, the problem is that they over-baby him if I go somewhere because, oh, it's Con, or I'm like, no. I'm very tough on him. I expect the same behavior from him that I do for my other 2 children. But I am worried for when he gets older, and next year I'm possibly bringing him into to a different school where his older brother will be, and on a different bus, and it's going to start standing out. I think he's always going to be different.
Right.
And I just feel like schools have to start putting something into the curriculum That's my
Absolutely.
about
agree.
tolerance, not only just for autistic children, but children of all special needs. And
I'm sure that's part of your journey as well.
it is. They need to start doing that because the kids are so.
And there's so much bullying this day and age.
That-
I mean,
right.
We've done several
Absolutely.
shows with.
But they're
with
doing
Yes.
bullying on. That topic hasn't been there yet on
Yeah.
special needs kids. It's bullying, which I'm not downplaying either, on kids just being nasty to each other. But some of these children can't defend themselves.
Exactly.
And they don't have the words to defend themselves, and they're not going to understand. My son probably wouldn't understand if somebody went up to him and called him a name right now, or started to really bully him, and that really makes me sad.
Yeah.
And he's not always going to have his brother in school with him to defend him. So I just think the schools have to start incorporating it in some way. And I was a teacher. I always incorporated it into my first week of community building about differences in the classroom. I think they need to bring it up a notch.
Right. Did you ever teach with autistic children? Did you have students that were autistic?
I didn't. I was.
No.
I did not. I was in a regular. I am a regular education teacher. I'm going to try to go back. I'm trying to go back to work, but I'm trying to do it at home to get my special ed degree. I personally feel I already have my degree. I have Connor.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of
feel
thinking along the same lines as
I
that, but
feel
that's the way
I
you would
can
put
go
it into words.
I can go
True.
into a classroom and probably pinpoint any kid. But to me, every child has a special need. So if I look back to my students that I had before children, I could probably think of 10 to 15 things I could have done better with that child now that what I know.
Right. So it's still a learning process, and especially for you moms, it's always going to be a learning process. I mean, Joan, you know, your son is now 21 years old, starting a whole new chapter of his life, and
Right.
you explained some of the worries that you still have. But I just want to backtrack a little bit. When he was first diagnosed, how long did it take for you to get that diagnosis?
Well, let's see. After I guess it was about 4 doctors I went through.
Wow.
Again, I had to go backtrack and go through the speech therapist. When I did finally, I actually went to my own insurance company in the hospital that took my insurance. And that was a crying shame, because he said that your son is normal, but he probably is going to be eccentric when he grows up, and he'll wind up sweeping leaves out from under a bridge if I'm not an advocate for his education.
Wow.
Well, that was really good. So then I finally went to Children's Hospital in California, they were incredible. Took about, I guess it was like a week-long diagnose. I mean, they went for hours and hours. It was grueling, but it was thorough. So
Wow.
that's when I finally got the diagnosis.
Well, I think the both of you do an amazing job with your kids. And like I said, we actually have Connor here. Can we bring
I'll
him
have
up?
to sleep.
Come on up here, Connor.
Come here, baby.
Come on.
Say hi.
Wave to the camera.
Wave to the camera. Say hi.
Oh, he's a little camera shy. Well, Connor,
So cute.
I understand that you like to read. That's one of your favorite things to do.
Right, you like to read?
Is it?
Do you like to read?
No, you don't. Not
Are you
today.
being shy?
Oh, okay. Well, we actually have a little gift for you guys from all of us here at the show. Connor, for you especially, since the little birdie whispered in my ear that books are one of your favorite things. So let's bring on the gift. Here it comes.
Wow, that's a big bag.
All
Look at
right.
this
Oh, it matches my shirt today. Thank
It's
you,
so
my lovely
cute.
assistant, Jamie. All right, so
What do
let's
you
see what we got
say?
here for you.
do you say?
You want to come over? Come on, let's open it up. I love presents. All right, let's see what we got here. We have a couple of books here.
Wow.
We have The
Those are
Adventures of Biscuit.
nice.
And this is actually one of my favorite books when
Mine
I was
too.
young,
Oh,
Where
me
the
too.
Sidewalk
I
Ends.
have
And this
that.
is a special edition.
That's
This
great.
is an awesome book, Where the
That's
Sidewalk Ends. I
wonderful.
loved this book when I was little. So I hope you'll
Look
love
at
it
the
too,
books.
Connor. And we have a koosh ball. Let's see, we have sidewalk chalk.
Oh, chalk on the sidewalk.
So you can doodle. We have a Spider-Man, looks like a beach ball for the summertime. You have a
Wow.
pool?
He's
You
really
have a
making
pool, so you
out.
can play it in your pool. Look at that camera right there. There we are. And a couple more goodies here. Oh, it just ends. It's like Christmas here. We have some stickers.
Ooh, glow in the dark stick.
Here's the
Look at me,
koosh
look at me,
ball.
look
Oh,
at me,
and I'm in
look
there
at me.
too. You get a picture of me.
Oh.
I'm in there too.
He's looking at the picture on there. That is so cute.
So that
Oh,
is
what do you
from
say?
that is from all of us here at the
Thank
show, and that is for you.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome.
Can
And
I
Joan,
read
we
that
have
tonight?
something for you and your son as well.
Oh,
I think it
thank
got
you.
buried here. From all of us here, we are sending the two of you, when he's home from school, to go to the Suffolk Theater in Riverhead to see a show
how
of your
wonderful.
choice.
Thank you.
So that is
I
from all
love
of us
that.
here at the
Thank
show.
you.
Ladies, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being a part of this show
Okay.
today, and you're doing an amazing job
Thank you.
from what you've discussed and seeing Connor today. So how about a big hand for these moms? They're doing a great job. We need to take a break. More to come.
Good
Stay
to
with
meet you.
us.
Yay!
He's so cute.
If you're going to be in the Riverhead area and would like to be part of our live studio audience, all you have to do is write for tickets. Please include your name, address, and daytime phone number. Email us at thejasonshow@yahoo.com. There is no known cure for autism. For many parents, the disorder is a gray area and can take years to get a proper diagnosis because of the different types of autism. It's heartbreaking for any parent to see their child struggle with the symptoms, but there are ways and techniques that can help ease these symptoms. Laura and Joan had explained several of them today that have helped their sons, and hopefully, if your child has autism, it can help you as well. If you at home have any information that you would like to share with our families, please email us at thejasonshow@yahoo.com. Thank you to Laura and Joan for being here today, and thank you at home for watching. See you next time.